Good morning. It's 11 a.m. on Saturday, and it's our pleasure to invite you to Deep Drive, our weekly podcast powered by Kotak Mahindra Prime. Now, on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about an announcement that really took a lot of the industry by surprise, even the global industry, because it was a global announcement actually. And that announcement is that Stellantis has said that they will be using a Tata Motors platform to build the next generation global Jeep. Now, that's really something big, and I thought we should have a chat about that. I'm Hormazd Sorabjee.
I am Ketan Thakkar. Yes, Hormuz, coming from the longest standing successful joint venture partnership, yeah, it really came as a massive shock. Never imagined that Jeep will underpin a Tata Motors platform. Now,
Absolutely. Normally, it's the other way around,
Absolutely.
And I think for the first time, this is incredible of how, let's say, Tata Motors, being sought after by a global brand.
Now, it's phenomenal. It also speaks a volume about the fact that how Indian companies are evolving from R&D standpoint. And clearly, we've seen them bridging the gap with the global players. And this is another stamp of quality coming in from a global partner. And we've spoken about it in our previous one of the podcasts that, it just makes logical sense for Stellantis to leverage its partnership with Tata Motors. For long, Stellantis gained at the cost of Tata Motors by supplying lakhs of engines. Now it's time that Tata Motors gets benefit out of it. So it's a pleasantly positive surprise. And one thing that really blew us away on that day, the Stellantis Investor Day, and clearly shows that if you have to succeed in the Indian market, you got to have some kind of backing from Indian ecosystem. And
That's right,
if it comes up
absolutely.
in form of architecture, clearly it shows that probably there could be much more in the future that we may see from that alliance.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ketan, I think you're absolutely right. I think really the shoe is completely on the other foot. And we've seen that, actually, if you look at it, it goes back to even the Mahindra Ford proposed JV, where Ford were really looking at using existing Mahindra architectures. At that time, the
Fantastic,
XUV
yes.
700 was going to be a Ford. I forget what it was, B757 or something
Yeah,
like that, which
yeah.
was the Ford code. They were going to use Mahindra engines, not only for their cars, but even for export. So clearly, I think, right back then, global OEMs had realized the value of, let's say, the Indian ecosystem, as you said,
Absolutely.
Indian OEMs. And again, similarly, even Volkswagen, Skoda have been scouting around, looking for, let's say, you partnering with
The
Indian
local
players.
player.
And even going before that, where it didn't really work out was Tata Volkswagen were looking at developing a platform jointly,
Yes.
and eventually each one went their own way,
Yes.
and but that fell through. But coming to this also, I think it's really a big deal for Tata Motors, because clearly, number one, as you said, it's a certain stamp of quality, that the fact that this platform then can be globally, let's say, engineered for much more demanding first world markets. And I think, Jeep, as we know, it's strong in the US.
Yes.
Obviously, Europe is also one area. So really, it'll be going to key markets all over the world. So I think for them, it's a really one way of getting a platform readily and quite cost effectively as well.
Now, since it's a Jeep, Hormuz, it's got to have the 4x4 capability, right? So what platform are we talking about from Tata Motors perspective for our viewers' understanding?
I think it's very clear, and we can confirm it's the Sierra platform.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It is the Sierra platform. That's the one they're going for. It's an all new platform, actually, which Tata has developed for the Sierra. Obviously, when you develop it all new, multiple wheelbases, multiple, let's say, powertrains. In fact, it's called Argos for all terrain ready. I don't know. I forgot what it is. Yes, so it's got some acronym basically saying it can take multiple.
Highly capable architecture.
Yeah, multiple, let's say, energy sources. So obviously we know there's an EV coming. Can take a hybrid, which Tata Motors is also working on, petrol, diesel. So I think, the platform is in a way future-proofed for
Yes.
future regulations. So obviously that is the obvious platform for, let's say, Jeep to take. they can't take the Harrier Safari platform. It's not theirs. Well, in a way, it is theirs, but it's a D8 platform from Land Rover. So
Right.
really, that in itself is a bit of a compromise, and that
Indeed.
platform is expensive and heavy, and really won't suit the kind of products Jeep wants to develop. Below that, you've got much smaller products, which again, I don't think would be suitable. So clearly, it is the Sierra platform, and as you said, Ketan. Uh, One thing about Jeep is, as part of their brand guideline and brand philosophy, every model has to have a 4x4 variant.
Absolutely.
And the Sierra platform has been developed to have 4x4 capability, something that, Tata Motors built in. They didn't have that with the Harrier and Safari platform. It wasn't technically feasible. Now they've done it with an electric, with the EV, which they can
Right.
do. So this, I think, was a key criterion, that the Sierra can give you all-wheel drive capability with a nice engine. So that was important. In fact, Ketan, is very interesting that this was the stumbling block for Jeep not to take the Citroen platform,
Yes.
the C Cube, right?
CQ, smart
Yeah,
car platform. they call
Smart
it.
car platform. Now, that would have been a perfect fit. It's an in-house platform engineered for the Indian market, so very low cost. You've got the C3 Aircross, the C3, the C3 itself, and it can take multiple top hats as well. So I think Jeep, it would have been very logical for them also to have a really compact Jeep on that platform, but no 4x4 capability on that platform. And it can't go beyond that. It's not, the packaging can't take more than a 1.23 cylinder engine.
Right.
So again, limitation on power,
Right.
which, obviously for the Jeep brand, that again is an issue. So clearly that platform was ruled out. Just to give a bit of history, I think they were looking around for what to do. I mean, let's not forget that the Compass is really uncompetitive right now.
Yes.
It's dated, it's expensive, it's small for the price,
Yes.
it's costly. Even the Meridian didn't do too well as a result. They tried to look at the Stella M, the STLAM.
Yeah, which was exorbitant, very expensive for Indian market.
Yeah, because it's a multi-energy platform. So you're carrying all that extra cost,
Yes,
into that
indeed.
platform. So again, I think they did, they really almost went ahead with it, but I think the numbers didn't add off and they pulled the plug on that.
Yes, they did.
So they were back to square one. I remember talking to some of the Stellantis guys and say, yeah, we are desperately looking for a product in the 20 to 25 lakh category,
Right.
Head on with the Creta.
Yeah.
And clearly they were scouting for a platform. Very difficult to develop a platform. I think nothing they had, off the shelf or in their toy box to just pick up and bring over here. So I think that Tata Motors platform really then just fit the bill, and it just made logical sense because of the partnership they have.
Absolutely, Hormazd. I think if I could jog back my memory, it all started with Mike Manley announcing the Jeep entry into India way back in 2014, 2015. At that point in time itself, he was rather open to say that, if you really have to be successful in India, you got to have that B Jeep in the Indian market. By that time, Creta was just launched. Ford EcoSport had already started chugging along massive numbers in India. And, they did not have a compact Jeep in their global portfolio. But
Right.
the good part was that they were looking at getting into the mainstream Jeep product for the Indian market. But again, unfortunately, sustained change at the global level, right from first it was Fiat Chrysler Automobile, then it got into Stellantis, and consistent change in top management globally meant India was always last in the pecking order given the volumes that India contributed to their
Absolutely. I just
global
think there was no
operations.
focus. And, with all the churn and, let's say all the companies merging into Stellantis, Fiat had its own problems. So I think, FCA, as it was called then. And so really, I think there were big issues. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Compass came in 2017.
17, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
so,
right.
it was our car of the year. It was a great product, I think, and really because it was phenomenally well priced.
Yes.
And choice of petrol and diesel, which, it really covered everything. I think, the one thing they missed out, which they got in much later, because that was a development cost. It wasn't there, again, off the shelf.
Yeah.
So when it's not off the shelf, to develop it for India, for the small volumes, always becomes a challenge, was the 4x2 auto. They
Yes.
only had the auto and the 4x4.
Right.
Now, not everyone wants a 4x4, but they wanted the auto. So
Right.
I think over there, if they wanted the auto, they had to pay for the cost of a 4x4 as well.
Yes,
And,
yes.
not many people wanted that. So it did have its issues, but as a product, it was really phenomenal. And it really kind of showed the Jeep DNA. It had reliability problems. Unfortunately, it's not as bulletproof, let's say, as Japanese products are. So it had that issue, and that reputation kind of stuck. And, at that point, people would compare, let's say, Meridian even with the Fortuner.
Yes.
That Fortuner, you can just take it to the end of the world and back and not worry about it. That kind of, you didn't have that kind of confidence with the Meridian.
Yeah. Rose. I think they got off to a fantastic start, if I'm not wrong, with the Compass 2500. I remember doing stories about how actually Compass did much better than XUV 500 during those days, because that was like the C segment SUV in the market. And unfortunately, with the global changes, the volume just fizzled out. The life cycle management went all awry.
They did do a good midlife facelift, which was really good, because the whole interior was changed. They had invested a lot in that. But, that's not enough. I mean, look, 2017 and we're in 2026.
Yes.
I mean, it's well past its sell-by date. The next generation of Compass should have been here by now, like it is globally on the Stella M platform, STLAM. But that was too expensive, so that project is canned. I don't know when they're saying the next one will come in 28. Is that
28?
Right?
That's right.
And for 50 countries.
Yes. So the good part is that this new B Jeep finally is going to be designed for emerging market, born out of India. I must say that Stellantis as a group was amongst the first to set up a strong R&D base. It started with Fiat Chrysler days with the Chennai setup. Eventually, they expanded into Pune with the engineering setup. Then they have one in Hyderabad. And they've been utilizing India's tech and engineering capability for years. So it was just a matter of time that they leveraged the capabilities that they had developed. Again, the only company to have manufacturing base, R&D base, and it was only a matter of time that they could have tapped into the expertise. It's phenomenal that we don't talk about that much. They export over 100,000 engines, almost 300,000 gearboxes out of India. So clearly from their perspective, India was always a critical base. It was just about getting it right for the Indian market, getting the right product, getting the right architecture. And with this coming in and with plans of exporting to 50 countries, Hormazd, this is their strategy of reinvigorating the Asia Pacific region. Along with Dongfang, they said that they want to do 100,000 cars by 2028, so which is a good sign. And so clearly, and like you mentioned, it's a multi-energy platform, so you can expect multiple body styles. Even Tata Motors themselves have said that they're going to have multiple body styles. But I'm not too sure how much would Tata Motors be willing to share out of that architecture. Any understanding?
So I think what I've picked up, and surprising but not so surprising, that while they have this great partnership, I think Tata Motors is just giving them the platform and that's it. And of course the engine as well, which we'll talk about.
Along with it.
So literally they are like a supplier. Take the platform, do what you want with it. We are not investing. We have no part to play in the development. So, I mean, and rightfully so. Why would Tata Motors want to kind of co-develop a Jeep? Doesn't make sense for them. It'll be competition to their Sierra.
Right.
But I think for them, this is, a good, lucrative deal probably. I hope they get a lot of money for it to kind of, in a way, pay back Fiat for years of charging them an exorbitant amount to, let's say, tweak the 2-liter diesel with every emission change. In fact, it was crazy because to touch the ECU, 10 million euros, which what Fiat would charge, their, let's say, clients, which were basically Tata and MG at that time. So they really kind of really overcharged them is what I felt. This is just a crazy amount to just do calibration to meet the next emission norm. So I do hope Tata Motors is charging them a good amount for this or whatever they are. So I think it's going to be a straightforward business deal. Take the platform, and I think obviously with that comes the engine. In fact, we did a story that some time back.
Yes.
In its logical sense, because it's crazy in this day and age to have only a diesel engine in your Jeep portfolio. I mean, they had the 1.4, they discontinued it after BS6. Reasons were they didn't want to upgrade it, but from what I understand, a lot of the components of this engine were made in China and they shut down that factory. So there was no place to, let's say, produce that engine. There was an opportunity to bring that plant to India, but at that time, the Fiat management didn't think it was a good idea. Really bad mistake. They could have continued with the petrol, which I think, would have given them many more volumes than it is right now. So right now, they only have the 2-liter diesel. They desperately need the petrol. They've been looking around. They explored the 1.3, I think, the Firefly engine in Brazil.
Yeah.
And which they put in their, let's say, equivalent of the Meridian there, which is a Commander, which is doing quite well, actually. And but again, that engine was proving too expensive to bring here. So really, it's just the cost which was kind of becoming a non-starter. And again, turning to, let's say, someone, a partner in your neighborhood, in your same plant, it just made absolute logical sense now that Tata Motors has developed a 1.5, the turbo engine, which is pretty good. The naturally aspirated is not. I don't think they would use that. It's just too underpowered. But the 1.5 is a great starting point, and a 1.5 with the Sierra platform, I think Jeep can really create, let's say, multiple body styles. They could be having 5-seater, 7-seater.
Why not?
The platform can support that. And I don't think they would have diesel because that platform can't take the 2-liter Fiat diesel. It would have to take the 1.5 Tata diesel.
Yeah.
I don't think in global markets there's really a market for that. Maybe a hybrid, which Tata Motors is working on. Maybe this might be an incentive for Tata Motors to really accelerate their hybrid program, because they'll have a ready customer in Jeep as well.
The volumes can be shared.
And the volumes can be shared. So I think it's a win-win for both, actually. More a win for Jeep because they're getting a product out of this.
Yeah.
For Tata Motors, it's a supplier, and Jeep is just a customer.
Yeah, I mean, what is heartening for me, Hormazd, is that we track all the companies, and Stellantis probably was the only company amongst the mainstream brand which had no real clarity as to where they were moving. With Citroen not really doing much, with just upgrades, not much was happening there. Jeep was becoming smaller and smaller, and they really needed to infuse something into the Indian market. And now with the midterm plan now being sorted, so clearly we're going to have another global brand continuing to have an integral part to play in the Indian market. And of all the joint ventures, Hormazd, I mean, you've tracked this since decades. Probably amongst the most successful and not without any acrimony. I haven't heard any challenge with regards to just joint venture.
No, not really. And honestly, Ketan, just to give a bit of background, there's a lot of history to this.
Yeah.
It actually goes back to Ratan Tata's personal equation with Luca de Montezemolo and Sergio Marchionne.
Oh, wow.
In fact, he had told me that they first got into a partnership when they were struggling in India with the Palio and all. And they came and said, can you help us? And, Mr. Tata, just being the magnanimous man he is, he can never say no. And that's when they formed, let's say, an alliance.
Yeah.
A bad idea to be the distribution arm for Fiat.
Fiat.
In fact, we did, a kind of a sting operation. And our colleague Daras Lam, who went to Mahindra after that, went to both showrooms and on a tape recorder recorded each one, and clearly you could see the Tata guy pushing his product, in the Fiat showroom, suggesting that, you can buy a Tata. And so it was very clear that Tata Motors was, more focused on selling their own products than Fiat products. They were too similar. But I think what stayed was the manufacturing joint venture, and especially the engine plant, which I think that's the longest standing joint venture today after a long time. I don't think there's been anything this long. 20 years is a lot.
Yes.
But Ketan, I have to tell you, from what I understand, there are certain clauses in the contract and agreement which makes it very expensive for either partner to exit.
Right.
So they are bound, contractually and legally, and it's very difficult for either to wiggle out of it. To be honest, in the past, when Fiat was doing well, they were trying to figure out if Tata Motors could sell to them, and vice versa.
When the tables turned.
So I think we have to understand that, there are certain clauses in the contract which make it difficult for them to divorce.
Right.
But it's a happy marriage right now.
Yeah.
And I think, again, what was very telling to show the level of, let's say, association between Stellantis and Tata is the year after the year of Ratan Tata's death, on his birthday, which was 28 December. I think it was 2024.
Yeah.
He died in October.
Yeah.
they had a kind of let's say, a service for him, to remember him. I was there for that. And who came for that? John Elkann,
Oh,
chairman of the, of the
Stellantis.
group. Yeah, exactly. Chairman of Stellantis. So he came clearly because, that's the association and bond and closeness there's been between Fiat, now Stellantis,
Yeah.
and the Tata Group. So clearly, I think, it's been, as you said, no acrimony. Overall, a very kind of a cohesive and, a good
Congenial
joint venture,
relationship between
congenial relationship. So I think it makes absolute sense for them to, let's say, partner with Tata Motors on this.
To me, what is eerie is that you mentioned about Fiat and Fiat Palio and Indica, and with time we've also seen. I was shocked to see the design similarity between Punch and C3. Then we saw Curve and the coupe version of I forget the name as well.
Basalt.
Basalt, yeah, Basalt.
Well, they look very different, but similar concept.
Similar concept.
Of a coupe sedan. Yeah.
It all happened around the same time. I'm wondering what's really happening. And so clearly, maybe some genes there wherein they.
But Palio Indica was too similar. In fact, I remember at that time, I think when it was shown in Delhi, 1998, and even the Palio was, shown, and I think the Indica just took away the Palio's thunder. It was genuinely similar.
Yeah.
Both were designed by the same design house,
Yeah.
EDR. And at that time, the MD of Fiat, Paolo Cantarella, just freaked out. I think he stopped giving them work because he said the cars were too similar.
Yeah.
And they were somewhat similar, but not similar, just, in terms of overall proportion, perhaps. And then, selling them, let's say, and then for Tata to sell both, which are so similar, clearly, I think, they would obviously, let's say, I wouldn't say favor, but push the Tata products a bit more.
And Hormazd, apart from the Palio and Indica days, I think the reinvigoration of the partnership happened with Linea and Punto. And again, a similar exercise when they tried to sell both Linea, Punto along with Vista and Manza.
Right.
We had seen a similar exercise, and eventually they had to kind of call it end of the distribution joint venture.
Right.
But I think they continued to utilize the factory, and for a long period of time, that 1.3 liter Fiat Multijet literally drove the Indian diesel wave.
And I'll tell you one thing where they really kind of juiced that joint venture, and I remember Ravi Khan telling me this, is Maruti ran out of capacity. And Tata sold them engines at a solid premium. Because Maruti ran out of 1.3 multijet capacity.
And then eventually had to add another plant for the capacity, given the demand for diesel with Desire and Swift at that point in time.
Exactly. And let's not forget that 1.3 was the national engine of India, and clearly it powered so many products. But I think, again, that really, I think, cemented the joint venture, made it lucrative, and just the way it churned out engines. And then I think later got into manufacturing vehicles as well.
Absolutely. And I think
jointly.
I think the era of 2010 to 2015 was a difficult one from a Fiat as well as from Tata Motors perspective. Tata Motors was just coming out of the difficult days of Nano, and it was struggling to make money. And Fiat itself had fizzled out with the poor response to the Punto and Linea.
Exactly. The joke was that the engines would outlast the cars, and which is what happened actually.
Indeed, it did. And they had to again reimagine as to how this joint venture would eventually come about, and enter Mike Manley, and then there was this renaissance of product portfolio that was lined up. The launch of the Jeep brand was announced, and we started seeing the entry of Jeep into the Indian market. And again, unfortunately, from FCA Stellantis perspective, we've seen spurts, but we've not seen consistency. And so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that this time around, at least now that this partnership has been announced, that there are long legs to it, and at least the product lifecycle management part of it is addressed by the current Stellantis management.
Absolutely. So I think what we can really look forward to is a brand new Jeep, completely new top hat, fully designed by Jeep itself. From what I understand, it's going to be partly designed in China, but there's even going to be a global involvement, probably in the design.
Yes.
So clearly, this is a global product because all the R&D is not going to be done only in India. It's going to be done, globally as well. So it's not just going to be a product for some, handful of small markets. As we said, 50 markets. And I think clearly the big markets for Jeep are also going to benefit from this product. And, I think, again, for Tata Motors, it's a big feather in their cap, that the fact that their aggregates
What we
will
send around
be
the world.
underpinning Jeeps all over the world.
And I'm really glad. I mean, for a while there was a study about utilizing the C3 smart car platform architecture. We know, and we've spoken about it in the past, that that platform was designed keeping cost in mind and not future tech
That's
and
right.
E&E capability.
That's right. Even
In
the
that.
architecture is old in that, they can't go beyond a point, especially the way we've seen, let's say tech like ADAS come in level 2, beyond level 2. The way the Indian OEMs are driving
Yes.
that, everything going now to Ethernet, you need that for blazing fast speeds. The CQ platform can't support that. The Tata platform can,
Absolutely.
which it can do. So I think clearly, that's I think what attracted Jeep to it, because they can't afford to develop an all new platform in this day and age.
Maybe I'm overextending myself, Hormazd, a little bit too much. Maybe this is the start, and hopefully, eventually in the future, maybe they can utilize Tata Motors platform for Citroen brand, because we don't know what is the next version of the smart car platform. Clearly, that was engineered for cost and not for features, which
Right.
is where India is moving to. Yes, there was conversation between Tata Motors and Peugeot at one point in time. So clearly, they understand each other well, and they are good partners. So hopefully, maybe Tata Motors could give new lease of life to Citroen brand in future.
Absolutely. And I think, for example, the X4 platform definitely could be a future Citroen platform. A lot of similarities as well. That also is packaged for a 1.2 three-cylinder engine.
Yes.
And clearly that's what these products are. So I think absolutely. I think, that's something which,
Makes logical sense.
makes logical sense. X4 is the latest platform from Tata Motors. Don't forget, this was a platform that was developed for global markets. In fact,
Yes.
this was a platform that Volkswagen were looking to take.
Yes.
And they got it. They got a sign off on it from EDAG, which had validated the platform, to have that level of, let's say, performance to meet crash and everything for global standards. So clearly, I think it is a platform that can also go global. And who knows, maybe Citroen should look at that next.
And they have international aspirations as well for Citroen brand, and they've been saying that they would want to use cars manufactured out of India even for the European market. And looking at the way Tata Motors has made rapid strides in the EV space, I think
Right.
it makes logical sense, rather than improving the existing smart car architecture or
Right.
investing in an all new architecture. So clearly, I think you really don't need to have equity joint venture. You could get into technical partnership, and yet you can make it win-win.
Exactly, absolutely. And I think another win would be if they went in for a joint platform for Citroen. I think the 1.2 turbo petrol and the petrol of Citroen still, I think, the best engines in that class. I think maybe Tata Motors
Something
should
that's
use
missing
that.
in Tata's portfolio, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I mean, they have a 1.2, honestly, but Tata Motors on the engine front really are behind the curve. Let's be honest. They are trying to catch up. I mean, they've somewhat got there with the 1.5 turbo petrol, which
Yeah.
Fiat are going to take, but their diesel, not really as refined as it should be. And of course, the 1.5 naturally aspirated, really too sluggish. But they are getting there, and that 1.5 petrol is really a good step up. But I think that 1.2 petrol of Citroen, what they're using, it's just a cracker of
Rocket.
an engine, and just so sad that the products it powers don't do better.
And I just hope eventually, if possible, even diesel, Stellantis could look at. That's a missing piece in their portfolio. Probably Tata Motors could offer that as an additional option.
Well, I don't know where that would fit. The obvious choice would be to just shoehorn the
Existing
Fiat
ones.
diesel into, let's say, the Sierra, but the 2-liter diesel won't fit in the Sierra. That would be the 1.5, but then again, that would be limited to markets like India.
Right.
Globally, there's no demand for diesel, so it would have to be petrol and some form of hybridization and electric as well. So that could be an option. But yeah, I think I don't think diesel would be on the cards for any manufacturer now coming out with a new product as well. I don't think they're going to be investing in, let's say, having that as one option of powertrain.
Now, so clearly a lot of exciting possibilities there. We'll see as to how this conversation evolves, but really excited to see the BG finally coming into the Indian market, and Jeep brand staking its claim in what is one of the fastest growing SUV market in the world. So I can't wait to see that model of him.
Absolutely, Ketan. I think, I think it's really, let's say, it's a story of also a partnership of 20 years.
Yeah.
Finally, they are leveraging each other. Actually, I can't understand why they didn't do this earlier.
Earlier, yeah, absolutely.
They should have done it earlier. But I think, of course, so I think more than anything, it's a big lease of life for Jeep. In fact, I would say Tata Motors has thrown them a lifeline with the Sierra platform. Let's see what Jeep makes out of it. But obviously, the prospects are quite exciting. And, this could be, let's say, a product that could give Jeep another lease of life in this market. Well, that's it from us from Deep Drive. We do hope you enjoy our podcasts every week. And to make sure you don't forget, please click on the bell icon to be notified. You can also catch us on our other platforms, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for watching. See you again, same time next week.